It's 6:30 p.m. and this special meeting of the Board of Education is now called to order. We'd like to welcome everyone to this meeting. And the first thing we need to do is make sure everyone is connected and can hear me. Terry.
Yes.
Thank you. Celeste? Celeste? Okay, we'll come back. Rusty?
I'm here, Randy.
Very good. Bo?
I can hear you, Randy.
Very good. Ann?
Yes.
Thank you. Kurt?
Yes.
Thank you. Celeste, are you there?
Looks like she just dropped off the call.
Okay, well, we'll wait for her to come back on, and while we do that, we'll get started with our meeting. I just want to remind everybody we're meeting virtually tonight again to be in compliance with the governor's executive orders regarding meetings of public bodies, and it seems to be working well for us. We had over 600 live streams of our last meeting. We're going to be taking some very positive actions tonight as we continue to learn more about school funding from the state. We're also going to be going into closed session to discuss some labor issues and be coming back into open session to take action. And now I'll recite the Pledge of Allegiance on behalf of the board, and we'll get started on our agenda. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Now we will finalize our agenda for the meeting, and I believe the superintendent has an upgrade to the agenda.
Actually, two things, Randy. If we tried to keep the agenda as short as possible, given that it's a special meeting, but inadvertently left off an ability to give you a short superintendent's report. So if we could add that on before comments and communications. And then also, we'd like to pull off the agenda the GRBS contract renewal as we started reevaluating some of the information in the contract. We didn't feel comfortable bringing that this evening, so we want to revisit that and then bring it back to you in September.
Okay, very good. Is there a motion, please, then, to approve the revised agenda?
Mr. President, I offer the following motion: that the Board of Education approve the revised agenda to include a superintendent's report and remove GRBS off of our agenda.
Thank you, Joanne. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Oh,
Aye.
whoa, we got to do a roll call. I'm sorry. Roll call vote, please, Barb.
Mr. Droppers,
Yes.
Mrs. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Rathburn,
Yes.
Dr. Shelton Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Van Antwerp,
Yes.
Mrs. Novaria. Yes. Mr. Snyder.
Yes.
The motion passes, and we'll proceed with our amended agenda, and we'll start with the superintendent's report. Mark?
Thank you, Randy. Just a few things as we start another school year. As you know, tomorrow is opening day. As we prepare for the start of the 2021 school year, certainly a far different start than what we're accustomed to. But we'll do I'm getting some feedback there. If I'm not sure whose microphone is on. So anyway, we're finalizing our staffing right now, making sure that we're meeting our student and family needs. Our numbers continue to change almost on a daily basis. We've had good response so far from our parents in selecting the various options that are available, but there are still several hundred people who we have not heard from as far as this year goes and what their intentions are. But based on the trends that we're seeing so far, about 50% of our elementary students have enrolled in face-to-face instruction, the other 50% roughly in the PPS virtual program. So those numbers are fairly evenly split there. And again, those numbers are preliminary and change every day. People will or parents will come into one program and then decide that they want to change into the other mode of learning. So we're tracking that and adjusting our staffing needs accordingly. At the secondary level, as you know, we're doing all virtual with the option for students to come in to our schools to receive their virtual instruction. And so far at the middle school level, we have about 30% of our middle school students are electing to come into our buildings. And then at the high school, it drops off to about 25%. And again, the variances are by building. At our community high school, more students wanting to come in, which isn't surprising. But I just thought it was interesting to see where we are landing with that. We have about, so far, we understand about 75 students have indicated that they're going to be participating in the KVIC program. And approximately 160 students so far have withdrawn from Portage schools to pursue their education elsewhere. And until we get transcript requests and that, we won't know where those students are going. But there will be some of the private schools, schooling, or some other options that may exist, or going to other districts. We're still processing all our transfer requests from area schools. So again, we really won't know what our final numbers are until we get closer into or a little bit further into the school year. So we do believe that our numbers are down a little bit from what we had projected, but the formula that Paul will go over a little bit later is in our favor with holding us harmless or less harmless and not absorbing that entire hit in 1 year if our numbers do go down. The other thing I wanted to mention is we've continuously been reviewing the reductions and the cuts that we brought to the board back in June as we developed the 2021 budget. The news, as you'll hear a little bit more on this from Paula, is much better than what we had assumed back in June. We feel confident and comfortable in beginning to restore some of the cuts that were made, some of the cuts and reductions that were made. In July, at the last meeting, you'll recall you brought back approximately 23 of the 36 laid off teachers. Later tonight, you'll be taking action to bring back 12 of the 12 additional teachers. So with one staff member who left to teach at another district, that really brings back everyone on our recall list, on our layoff list. So that's additional good news. We're also reviewing our needs for parapros, and we will be bringing not all of them, but some of the parapros back into the district. And also taking a look at reinstating the salary reductions in the administrative and technical assistance support group. There were some benefits that were reduced, but we feel comfortable, at least for the time being, not reducing the salary. I think there was a 4% salary reduction for administrators, 2% for the task group that we'll reinstate. And as we get to know a little bit more about the budget, we'll take a look at the other reductions that were made with that group. And we also, as part of that, are taking a look at middle school sports. And we notified the middle school principals earlier today that we will be minimally reinstating fall sports at the middle school level. Right now, with the cancellation of football and holding off on the other indoor sports, the only sport that really has a goal right now for sure is cross country. So we did take that action today in informing our middle school administrators about that reinstatement. So and that becomes a little bit of a timeliness issue too, because practices are allowed to begin right now, and we didn't want to hold off any longer than we had to. We feel pretty confident that we can restore these things based on what we're hearing. Paula will give you a little information that she heard today on the revenue estimating conference, which was a rosier forecast than what we had heard back in May. And again, I think we feel good about being able to move in this direction. So between this information I presented and what you'll hear later from Paula, I'm sure if you have questions, I can answer some of those now, or if you want to wait until after Paula's presentation, you're welcome to do that then as well. And from there, I will turn it over to Ron Heron, who will give you a bit of an update on our bond projects. Ron?
Mark,
Yes.
Can I ask one question? I'm sorry. I've had some power outages at my house, and I'm doing this from the phone, so I'm feeling like a wounded cripple here, including not being able to pick up Barb's messages to me. Did I hear you say that in the middle and high school, some of the students have opted for in-person learning? I didn't think that was I must have heard that wrong.
No, what I said was that all of our students at the secondary level are doing remote learning, virtual learning, but we gave them the option to come into our buildings to do that remote learning. So
and that is where that 25 and 30% number came from. Those that have opted to do their virtual learning within the classroom. Thank you so much, Mark.
Not necessarily within the classroom, Joanne, within the buildings. We're creating some spaces for them so that we can do some cohorting of our grade level groups. So that's they will not be in the classroom where their teacher will be teaching from, but they will be in the building where they have access to our internet, some staff supervision, and a place to do some socialization. So it's averaging around anywhere between 100 and 150 students per building right now. And we anticipate that those numbers may change as the fall goes on. So if that answers the question, maybe I guess I should look around. Are there any others on my portion of the report? All right, Ron.
All right. Good evening, board members. I'll just give you a quick update on where we're at, starting with Central Middle School. We have a final temporary occupancy inspection this week. We had our temporary inspection and passed last week, but there was a few things that we have to shore up, and so they'll be back this week to check on those. We see no issues with checking those off the list. Some items throughout the building may appear to be incomplete at this time, which we have had some delays in some HVAC equipment and some mill work throughout the building. And we are doing final cleaning is ongoing this week. We had a couple of groups in those buildings this weekend doing the cleaning. And then also we have the busing and drop off has been planned and the buses have practiced there. So that's it for Central Middle. At West, we have the same process going on at West. Have final temporary occupancy inspection this week to shore up some of the things they saw last week, which were minor, and will be resolved this week. And then we have halls have been cleaned this. We had another group of cleaners throughout that building over the weekend. The science common area, which is an area we said that would not be complete, but it sounds like we'll have 3 of the science classrooms available at this time. Remaining classroom furniture is being installed tomorrow, and then that's it at West. At the Northern Auditorium, again, we have masonry and steel is an ongoing process as resources are available. That masons and steel workers, they've been hard to come by, but we've been assured that they will get us back on schedule with our current scheduled date. Also, we have underground plumbing and backfill of the pool is still ongoing. They're roughing in some of the ceilings and in the bathrooms and locker rooms. And we're pouring a final slab in the west side of the pool area. So that's what's going on in the construction world this week.
Any questions for Ron? Hey, Ron, thank you very much.
That's all I have, Randy.
Okay, Mark, thank you. We'll move to our comments and communications sections, and first we'll do comments from citizens.
Good
Michelle.
evening, board members. Michelle Karpinski here from Community Relations. We have 3 public comments tonight. The first comes from Kate Phipps at 6307 Peachtree Street in Portage. She says, hello, trustees, Superintendent Beeling, and community members. I'm writing again today to express my concerns regarding the Return to Learn plan at Portage Public Schools. I am a teacher at Portage Central School and have been teaching for over 30 years here. I am excited to start. I participated in creating videos for our students and parents so that they know a little bit about what to expect when school starts. The staff at PCHS work together to help our students feel comfortable in these uncertain times. I hope you were able to watch them. That being said, I really do not feel that the school board and the administration have listened to the concerns of the community members about the start of the school year. We are reading about increasing numbers of new cases of COVID-19. MLive reported that the Michigan Health Department officials reported 868 new cases of coronavirus and 4 new deaths on Monday, August 24th. Yes, we would like a sense of a return to normalcy. However, we have to embrace the concept that we will have a new normal. We need to do everything to make sure that our students and staff are safe. The first day of school is in a week. Can you ensure everyone's safety? Thank you, Kate Phipps. Our second comment comes from Sarah Baker. She says, dear Portage PPS Board of Education and Administration. On June 29th, I submitted a public comment requesting a community-wide update on district efforts to improve diversity and inclusion curriculum and sensitivity training. I submit this request again today, August 24th, as I prepare to send my child back to school for 2020-21. I now ask as a stakeholder, parent, and community member, what anti-bias trainings, mandatory or voluntary, have occurred? What curriculum has been evaluated? What hiring practices have improved? What policies have been addressed to become a more inclusive educational provider? And who has been involved in the process? I refer to the letter dated June 3rd addressing George Floyd's death and the commitment to transform PPS in the future. When I first read the letter, I assumed we would hear more about the work with the Great Lakes Equity Center within the following week. I now realize we were promised information about how the district will manage instruction over COVID conditions. I request the school administration and the elected board to report to the community about diversity, inclusion, and anti-bias work at Portage Public Schools. I have reviewed END's Policy 1.4 monitoring report, which states students are ethically aware and culturally sensitive to prepare them to be responsible citizens. Many examples are provided of student access to culturally sensitive lectures and events. However, many of the cited examples are exclusive to specific buildings and are not provided to each and every student. Also, I'm taking this opportunity to acknowledge the exceptional communications coming from Portage Central High School. Just today, my sophomore received an invitation mailed through the U.S. Postal Service to connect with her new teachers. Instead of dreading the school year, my daughter is excited to meet her new teachers. Sensitivity to the fact that not every student or family has access to electronic communication Portage Central put into action the phrase committed to all. I look forward to a response to my request for more information. Kind regards, Sarah Baker. And our final comment tonight comes from Nicole Harlow at 4789 Golden Ridge Trail in Portage. Members of the board, I am writing you to encourage you to fully fund athletics at the middle school level. Middle school is a unique opportunity for students to try new athletic activities, build new friendships, and grow as individuals. I am the parent of one Portage West graduate and 2 current West students. Both my graduate and my older West student have enjoyed athletics during their time at West and have experienced personal growth as a result of their participation. My incoming 6th grader has anticipated for several years being able to also participate in athletics. Please fully fund athletics at the middle school level. Thank you, Nicole Harlow. And that includes our public comment for tonight.
Thank you very much, Michelle. Are there any comments tonight from board trustees?
Randy,
Joanne, go ahead.
could Michelle or perhaps Mark announce again to those watching the meeting on their ability to attend a Zoom meeting with the Kalamazoo County Health Department?
Joanne, are you there?
Hear me? Could you hear me, Randy?
No, could you say that again, please?
I'm sorry. Could Michelle or Mark make the announcement about the possibility of our parents attending a Zoom meeting with the Kalamazoo County Health Department this week?
Well, I can mention the fact that as you already did, Joanne, that there is a Kalamazoo County Health Department town hall meeting for Portage residents that will be held on Wednesday, the 26th of this month, beginning at 6:30. It's a Zoom meeting, and I believe information was sent to all of our parents through our normal communications system. But again, look in your mail, and I'm not sure if we're going to be doing another update on that or not, or another mailing on that, but certainly would invite parents to and community members to participate in that.
Mark, the information also appears on the front page of our Portage Public Schools website.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Joanne. Anything else?
Yeah, Randy, this is Rusty.
Yes, sir.
I just want to thank administration for reconsidering the middle school sports. It's not that middle school sports are near and dear to me. It's just when we look at our end statement, obviously middle school sports doesn't attack an academic success, but when we take the learning and leadership of the post-graduation success, responsible citizens, and service to community, I just think that contributes a lot to the learning. I know I've talked to you, Randy. I kind of look as, we teach kids, but we also need to empower kids. We need to engage kids. Sports helps with that, especially middle school sports. It teaches kids humility. It teaches them how to express themselves. So I really like to thank administration for doing that. I am a little disturbed. There's a board member who's has said some stuff in the community about being tired of me talking about middle school sports. And I just want to be clear that comments are my time. It's the only time I get. And I apologize if any of my fellow board members are offended, but I really have nothing personal in this game, except I wanted kids to engage, and I want kids to succeed in life. And so once again, I appreciate what administration has done. Thank you.
Thanks, Rusty.
Randy?
Any other? Yes, Terry.
I would just like to thank Mark again and his administrative staff for the work that they continue to do to help school open next week. I know it's been challenging in many, many ways, and it will continue to be that way. And just thanks for hanging in there and doing the best job that you can do.
Thanks, Terry. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'd like to reiterate Terry's comment. I'd like to thank the board trustee, not the board trustees, but the administration for doing all the work they've been doing and making sure education is the top priority for our kids in the district.
Thanks, Kurt. Anyone else?
Sure, Randy. This is Bo. I was reflecting on the vote we took at our last meeting, and that was a substantial and difficult vote as we tried to weigh kids getting back in the classroom, especially kids from struggling backgrounds, and weigh that against safety. So this is an exciting time. It's also a time of great anxiety. Mark, we're going to extend your emergency powers tonight, and we know that you will use them well. And I would say, just coming from this trustee, if we get up to the precipice and you have a bad feeling and there are things on the checklist that are left undone, that you will delay or do the appropriate thing. But we also know that you and your team and teachers and people from across the district have worked so hard these last several months to prepare us for this day. So it's a mix, but on balance, excited, but with a little bit of anxiety, but with much appreciation.
Thank you, Bo. Any other trustee comments? I'd also like to just take a minute on behalf of the board to thank everyone in the district for working so hard to make sure we've got a great start to the new school year. We all know back to school is a lot of work in a normal year, and this is far from a normal year. And we know that folks are learning new procedures, new ways to deliver content, in some cases, new schools, new curriculum, new grade levels, and many folks are working outside of their comfort levels. And I think it's important for the board to let everyone know that we recognize your work, we appreciate your work and everything you're doing on behalf of our kids. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move to page 7 to approve new teacher appointments. Is there a motion, please?
Mr. President, I'd like to make the following motion, that the Board of Education approve the following new teacher appointments as presented. Brian Van Tol, Band Director of Central High School and Central Middle School, and Sonia Lewis, School Psychologist.
Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Thank you, Kurt. And I think Brad's going to give us a little background on these fine folks.
Good evening, trustees. Thank you. And certainly nicer to be in front of you, hiring and rehiring than what we've had to do some things previously. Yeah, bringing to you tonight 2 new teacher hires. I will point out that these 2 new teacher hires would be happening irregardless of the action we'll take next with the recall, as they have certifications and or relevant special training that none of our recalled teachers will have. Mr. Van Tol at the high school, and I've told him that all of you like having the drums playing as loud as they can on Monday evenings during board meetings. So he's promised to continue Mr. Flynn's tradition of doing that. And then we're really fortunate to have Ms. Sonia Lewis joining us as well. I mean, she has taught not only in other K-12 schools, but also is recognized in teaching at the university level as well. So we're looking forward to having her. And she's replacing a school psychologist who has departed from us to move up to the Traverse City area.
Thanks, Brad. Any questions for Brad? Okay, well, welcome to these new folks, and we'll take a roll call vote, please, Barb.
Mrs. Wilson?
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Rathburn?
Yes.
Dr. Shelton Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Van Antwerp?
Yes.
Mrs. Novaria?
Yes.
Mr. Snyder?
Yes.
Mr. Droppers?
Yes.
Thank you. The motion is approved. We'll now move to page 9 to approve layoff recalls. Is there a motion, please?
Yes, Randy. I am honored and very pleased to forward the following motion that the Board of Education approve the resolution for the recall of teachers as presented.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Terry. Brad, is there anything we need to know here?
Another pretty straightforward motion. I think Superintendent Beeling covered it, that this will complete our recall list. We have lost 2 of our recalled teachers to other districts, and we had 1 submit his retirement to the public employee retirement system. So, but that will fill our recall list and empty it. And odds are I will be coming to you next meeting with a couple of additional new teacher hires to fill in the gaps of the folks we lost.
Very good, Brad. Thank you. Is there any discussion?
Yeah.
I have a quick question.
Sure, Celeste.
Okay, just ask Brad. Has our retirement list changed significantly, or is it just that 1?
No, we had, in addition to the 1 I just mentioned, we had 2 others choose to retire as well rather than come back. And so, and I am sure at a future meeting, we'll bring a resolution for the board to recognize those retiring teachers, just as we do our other ones at the end of the traditional year. So yeah, we've lost 3 teachers to retirement.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Brad?
No, it's not a question, Randy. It's just that, you know, we had that horrible motion that we had to do in August. And I can't tell you how pleased I am that everybody and the family's back. So, you know, thanks for everybody. Thanks for their patience. Bo talked about the COVID anxiety, and there's a lot of anxiety when you're laid off. So thanks again for administration for getting everybody back.
Right on. Thanks, Rusty.
Yeah, Randy, I'll just repeat the obvious, but a motion like this is just a great relief. It's an incredible relief.
For sure. Thank you. Okay, Barb, I think we're ready for roll call vote.
Mr. Rathburn,
Yes.
Dr. Shelton Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Van Antwerp,
Yes.
Mrs. Novaria,
Yes.
Mr. Snyder,
Yes.
Mr. Droppers,
Yes.
Mrs. Wilson,
Yes.
Very good. The motion to approve layoff recalls is approved. Our next action item is on page 11 to approve the resolution to grant emergency powers. Is there a motion, please?
Yes, President Van Antwerp. It's Rusty here. I'd like to move that the Board of Education approve the resolution, to grant emergency powers to the superintendent during the 2020-21 school year as presented.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
Thanks, Bo. And I think Mark wants to just explain this to us quickly.
This is a similar resolution to what the board passed last spring when we first went into remote learning as a district. It gives me the authority to take action on any number of the executive orders or legislative actions that come out of Lansing. It's a motion that's or a resolution that's recommended by our attorneys as well as our friends at Neola. So as I reflect back on the emergency powers resolution from last spring, there were really no actions that were taken beyond just implementing what the executive orders stated. So even though the executive orders may have been in conflict with some of our existing practices and policies, it was merely carrying out the recommendations that came there rather than going through the process of going to the board. So this just continues that throughout this school year.
Thanks, Mark. Is there any discussion? Okay, Barb, let's take a roll call vote, please.
Dr. Shelton Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Van Antwerp,
Yes.
Mrs. Novaria,
Yes.
Mr. Snyder,
Yes.
Mr. Droppers,
Yes.
Mrs. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Rathburn,
Yes.
Very good. The motion to grant emergency powers is approved. We'll now move to our discussion item, which is a budget update, and I believe Paula is going to lead us.
Good evening, trustees and Superintendent Beeling. Included in your board packet tonight is a budget update reflecting on how I feel that we will end the 1920 school year, and also to update the board since we adopted our final budget amendment in June for 1920. And then touch on a few changes that we know that are coming into effect for the 2021 school year. If you recall, back at the end of June, we adopted a final budget amendment anticipating a $650 per pupil reduction. And on the night of our budget hearing, news came out of Lansing about a half an hour beforehand that a deal had been reached where we would not be seeing as harsh of a reduction as originally planned. It took about a month for us to find out all of those details, to actually find out that our reduction for our 1920 school year would really be $175 a pupil. And then they were going to backfill that reduction with a $350 per pupil payment to the districts. But the problem with the 3.1 million of coronavirus relief funds is that those are federal funds. And because everything was not signed into law until after July 1st, the caveat of districts could not recognize that revenue in their 1920 fiscal year, because remember, our fiscal year runs different than the state's fiscal year, and we accrue back our July and August state aid payments. So last week, Thursday, on our August state aid payment, we saw that reduction of the $175 per pupil, and then the $350 federal payment come through under a new categorical of 11P on our state aid status report for coronavirus relief funds. And the district now has approximately $3.1 million to spend in the 2021 school year, but we do not have all the details yet on how that money can be spent. We're waiting for information that is forthcoming. We should have it within the next few weeks. I thought it would be a good idea to include in this budget update for the board how I'm seeing that our year is going to end for 1920. Our audit just started today, and I prepared a preliminary progress report by function and object code in your packet, the report that you're used to seeing, so that you can have information now to know why we're making decisions that we're making as a district before you see the audit presentation that comes your way in November. Because we only saw a $175 cut per pupil, our revenues came in a lot higher than anticipated, and our expenditures still came in lower than we had anticipated. This was the most unusual year to budget based on COVID that I have seen in my career. So based on, unless there's any adjusting entries that the auditors state that we have to make, I did make a small entry today that I found, thanks to the help of my staff, that we found over the weekend that we needed to book. So these numbers are going to change slightly, but very, very immaterial for sake of the board. It is projected right now, unless, like I said, unless the auditors state I need to make an adjusting entry that I'm not aware of, that we will be adding to our fund balance at the end of the 1920 school year, adding to our fund balance approximately $1.2 million based on where our fund balance was at the end of the 18-19 school year. So that is what I wanted to share with the board tonight in regards to 1920. And if it's okay, I'll move to 2021, what I do know, and then we can take questions afterwards, or Mark, if you have questions for Mark in regards to this information in your packet. I included information regarding House Bills 5911, 5912, and 5913. Those were passed just last week by House and Senate. It was expected that the governor would sign those last week, but I don't know for a fact that she has. I was busy preparing for the audit, I will admit. this lets districts help to set the stage for things that we need to know in regards to the return to learn plan that we adopted at our last board meeting. We're usually funded on a 90-10 blend, 90% of our fall count and 10% of that previous school year spring count. Well, this year they've developed a 1 year only. These items for the return to learn bills are a 1 year only item, a super blend formula where they're actually going to look at both year's enrollment numbers and this year's enrollment numbers based on different percentages and blend them together for districts so that they don't feel as hard of a hit in regards to enrollment now that so many districts have gone to the virtual aspect and the change in instruction because of COVID. So I included in your packet what that formula looks like. It's no longer going to be that easy formula of 90% from one count and 10% from the other. It's going to be a little bit more involved, but that's okay. It actually helps districts to not feel that hit if that fall enrollment comes in lower than projected. We did budget down for this school year. It'll be very interesting to see what enrollment does come in at compared to budget. Also included in that return to learn plan, our days in attendance requirement are waived. We usually have to teach for 180 days and 1,098 hours. That's been waived for the 2021 school year only. We are required to have two-way interaction occurring between students and mentor teachers or teachers, between 75% of our students to be able to be fully funded. So that's what our pupil accounting auditor will be auditing us on. Also included in those plans, the board reaffirmation of plan where we have to come back to the board on a monthly basis for the continuity of learning plans to reaffirm that plan every 30 days and to include public comment for that. And then today I listened to the very rare third consensus revenue estimating conference for the year. And they talked about, economists talked about how our numbers are coming in compared to original forecast. And it is looking better than originally we had thought in May. The federal unemployment stimulus has helped. Sales tax is up higher than what they thought it would be, but numbers are still not hitting where they need them to be, where they are projecting us to be able to sustain, funding where we're at right now. We'd originally thought that the school state aid fund was going to be $1.3 billion down for the year. Now we're looking at about $200 million that we're down. So that's a good swing. It'll be very interesting to see what kind of budget package House and Senate puts out for us. They've got less than 6 weeks now before the state has to pass their budget. So I think all of this is going to have to move very fast. I honestly feel that we won't know until later in September what we're going to be funded at, but hopefully I'm wrong. But these numbers from the Consensus Revenue Estimating Conference help House and Senate to develop their budgets accordingly before it goes through conference committee. So they're going to be very much so focused on the 2021 State Aid Act or State Aid package for us for now. One thing that they did stress in the Consensus Revenue Estimating Conference is that things still remain quite uncertain due to COVID, and it could have more of an economic impact than what they're expecting. So that was how they wanted to phrase themselves, that the unexpected could still happen. So that's all I have tonight to share with the board. Do you have any questions right now?
Yeah,
Paula, can I? Go
this
ahead.
is Kurt.
Go ahead, Kurt.
Yes, Paula. So my understanding of how the math works is if we're down 10% headcount this year, we're really only going to mathematically be down 2.5% as far as headcount for funding, right? That's how the math works on the 75-25 percentile.
that fall count for us, Kurt, is they're going to take 90% of our fall count plus 10% of our February count, and that's going to equate to 25% of our funding, 25% of our blended FTE. And then they're going to look at both of our count periods from last fiscal year and blend those based on the 90-10%.
Right, right. So if we're down 10% this year from last year, it's only going to affect us 2.5%. That's how the math works, right? You have to answer, you can't, right?
I haven't calculated that, but yes, I understand how the formula is going to work, but I haven't calculated any scenarios of if we're down, what does it look like? So.
Okay, well, I'm assuming that's the way the formula works, because we're getting 75% of last year's headcount and only 25% of this year's headcount. So if we're down 10%, but anyway, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Paula, your report, your narrative is excellent, and your backup of every category in the 12 months ending June 30th of 2020 is excellent. And I know you've got a big task ahead of you with this audit. Next time we meet in 2 weeks and the auditors put a seal of approval on your reporting here, will we be able to see an unrestricted fund balance revised as of June 30th, 2020?
I will not have a problem with providing that number if the board would like to see that.
Okay. I'm sorry, not now, but in 2 weeks, correct?
I know, right, and that in 2 weeks, I would feel much better knowing if there's going to be any other adjusting entries.
Okay. So are we putting all 10 items back at this time? Congratulations on getting athletics and our teachers back and a rollback on the cut on administration, but are all of the items now back on the table?
I can take that, Paula. No, there are still some items that we're keeping on the table. There were some adjustments that we made to certain contracts that we hold that we will not automatically be putting back on. We did some reduction in professional development that we will monitor to see how much of it goes on. So no, it's not automatic that all of those will be coming back.
Thank you so much. Greatly answered on both of your parts.
Hey, Paula, this is Bo. Randy, if I can go in with the next question.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Paula, you said we at the end of the last fiscal year, we added 1.2 million to the fund balance. Off the top of your head, I didn't see it in here. Maybe I missed it. Can you convert that to a percentage basis for us? Do you have that? And you're on mute.
$1.2 million is approximately 1.2% of our expenditures. But are you looking for the fund balance percentage?
Yeah.
I did not bring that to tonight's meeting.
Okay. I think for a future communication, if you can just loop back and let us, I mean, that's the one financial expectation that we have embedded in policy. So that, and then I'm assuming then it's way too early to ask what your projection would be of that in 10.5 months from now. But I suspect we're going to be doing a budget revision this fall. So that might be the first time we'll have a chance to review that number.
As soon as I can get past the count submission.
Yeah.
Once the business manager is hired, we can work towards that budget amendment gladly.
Yeah. But I mean, what I'm hearing from you and from Mark tonight is that, you're getting enough information that you trust, that you felt good bringing all the teachers back. And you're feeling good about restoring some of these things. So this is all good news.
Yeah, well, I don't want to speak for Paula with the numbers because I know she likes to get them very specific. But we had been projecting a 2.95% fund balance had we made the $650 cut per pupil. We're standing at $175. So there's going to be a significant increase there. along with the $1.2 million that we were able to save on the expenditure side. So
Yeah.
I think we were going to be around 8% or slightly above 8%, and we should be able to hit that target for the end of the 1920, or excuse me, yes, the 1920 school year.
Yeah.
But until we know our foundation allowance for this school year, this 2021 school year, it'll be hard to make that kind of a prediction.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like from the revenue estimating conference, the expectation is we're still going to have some softness in those sales taxes. But it's a little bit of softness. It's not kind of like, I don't know what the number was 2 months ago when you brought us the budget, but like a 20% or it was a huge reduction. So it's not like we're getting all of the funding back, but it's a shock wave, not an earthquake, if I can use that phrasing.
It at this time, it doesn't feel like we're going to get all of the funding back. If they just touch on the fact that we were $1.3 billion down in May, and now we're expected to be $200 million down in the state school aid fund. Will they possibly look at that across more than 1 year to try to smooth itself out?
Yeah.
How much will that actually affect funding is the question. And that's where we're going to see where it come out in the budgets that are presented from House and Senate.
Yep. So, right. So trustee, I'll speak for myself, right? Trustee anxiety can go from off the charts to manageable, but still anxious. These are anxious times on all fronts. Thanks, Paul.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah, man.
Any other questions for Paula?
Randy, it's Rusty here. It's more of a question for Mark. Is this board reaffirmation plan, is that pretty quick and simple? Just saying, hey, we're going to continue as is?
We haven't heard the details on that yet. You will have to adopt the extended plan that Paula referred to. And then every 30 days after that, you have to take action on it. But as part of taking action, there has to be public input during a board meeting. So if people disagree with our plan and want to provide input, they certainly have that opportunity. If they like our plan, it may not take as much time. So it's hard to predict what how long a process, how lengthy a process that will be each month. And we still don't know if it's specifically exactly 30 days or if it's coincides with board meetings that we might already have scheduled. So there's still information that is coming our way on that.
Thank you. I just want to make sure the board's clear on what our expectations are and what we can expect. So thanks, Mark.
Paula, thank you very much for a good report, a lot more optimistic than back in June. Thank you very much. We'll now entertain a motion to go into closed session to discuss collective bargaining strategy. That motion is on page 20.
President Van Antwerp, I move that the Board of Education move into closed session for the purpose of discussing collective bargaining strategy as allowed under the Open Meetings Act 15.268, Section 8C.
And I'll second it.
Thank you, Rusty.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Roll call vote, please, Barb.
Mr. Van Antwerp,
Yes.
Mrs. Navaria,
Yes.
Mr. Snyder,
Yes.
Mr. Droppers,
Yes.
Mrs. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Rathburn,
Yes.
Dr. Shelton Harris.
Yes.
Thank you, Barb. The motion is adopted and we'll be going into closed session and coming back out of closed Okay, the board is back into open session. We have 2 action items to address here. Is there a motion, please, on page 21?
Yes, President Van Antwerp, Rusty here. I move that the Board of Education approve the 2021 contractual agreement with the Portage Custodial Maintenance Group, the MEA/NEA.
Second.
Thank you very much. Any discussion? Okay,
Randy,
roll call vote. Okay, go ahead, Bo.
Just a
Sorry.
quick note of appreciation for the work those fine people do.
Thank you. Barb isn't with us, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, all right, well, we'll do the roll call vote, please, and we'll start with Terry,
Yes.
Celeste,
Yes.
Rusty,
Yes, sir.
Bo,
Yes.
Joanne,
Yes.
Kurt,
Yes.
and Randy. The motion passes. It's unanimous. The contract with the custodial maintenance group is approved. Is there a motion, please, to approve the bus driver's
Yes,
contract?
Mr. President, I'd like to make the following motion that the Board of Education approve the 2021 contractual agreement with the Portage Bus Drivers Association, MEA/NEA.
Second.
Thank you, Rusty. Any discussion?
Another note of appreciation.
Very good, Bo. Thank you. We'll start with Celeste this time.
Yes.
Rusty,
Yes, sir.
Bo,
Yes.
Joanne,
Yes.
Kurt,
Yes.
Randy, yes, and Terry.
Yes.
Very good. The motion passes and the contractual agreement with the Portage Bus Drivers Association is approved. To tag on to Bo's contract, we appreciate the work these folks do, and we appreciate being able to settle our labor agreements with them. And I believe we've reached the end of our agenda. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.